Welcome to Demolition Success Secrets, the podcast that's changing the game for demolition businesses everywhere. Ever wondered how a wrecking ball wielding industry can leverage digital marketing to dominate their market? Well, we've got the blueprints, strategies, expert guests, and more to show you how. Stay tuned, because we're about to blast through the barriers of your business.
Awesome, guys. Welcome to another episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Today we have a really special guest, Dave. Dave, how is it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Where in the world are you today?
I am in our one of our offices at Houston, Texas. We've got an office in
Nice.
Lafayette, Louisiana, Lake Charles, Louisiana, but today I'm in Houston.
Very cool. How is the weather? Is it still cold like it's been? Is it back to normal?
It's better. It's 40
better.
in the morning and up to about 70 during the day. So it's quite the temperature fluctuation, but it's not freezing, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, that is nice. I lived in San Antonio, which ironically is where the association 50th year is going to happen in March.
Yep.
And it was so funny because I would start to see billboards of law firms like, did your pipes freeze? You know, were your utility bills crazy? A lot of them around Austin. It's very interesting how that's happening. Are you going to be in attendance in March?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've done the demo show for the last 20 years.
Awesome. Okay. Very, very cool. Any good takeaways? Of course, our audience, some of them are in the association, some of them are kind of on the fence. What are your insights of the association?
I've been involved on the dealer and manufacturing side, mostly in the dealer for the first 12 years, and then on the manufacturing side. The Demo Association is a great association. It puts contractors in contact with other contractors. The big advantage is it's the knowledge in that room. And we're also members of ISRI and a bunch of other associations. And Demo, it's a great group of people because everybody's willing to share information. A small contractor can show up, talk to a big guy, a Priestley, an Independence, a Trifecta, those guys. And these guys are willing to help them and give them a hand up and give them information on how to do it. It's a great sharing event. The live demo area is something we've been looking forward to for a long time. And when they finally brought out the live demo, it's great. It allows people to try something. I'm a cat guy. I've never sat in a Komatsu or a Hitachi. Sit in it and drive it. Is a Genesis better than a LeBounty? Try them. It's a great thing. The only thing we'd love it to be more outdoor demo area.
Yeah, sure.
More days. Let guys play. It's amazing. One of the lines I was selling for it, the guy said, I've never sat in this machine before. And now after 20 years, now I sat in it. He goes, I love it. We're going to buy it. But, they wouldn't normally go on a regular day, go into that dealership and check it out. It's good from the dealer standpoint because a lot of customers want to demo something. And it's
Right.
expensive for the dealer. The customer wants to see if it'll do it. Go to the live demo area, try it, see if it'll do it.
Go play in the sand. Yeah, ironically, they're demoing demo equipment. I love that.
Yep. No, it's cool.
That's cool. Super, super cool. All right, so you highly recommend it, be it the association, be it coming out to the 50th anniversary in San Antonio in March. So anyone who's listening, definitely go check that out. They do have registration, last I checked, still available.
Yep.
Should be pretty cool. And I used to live in San Antonio, so great little, it's not even a little, it's very populous. Really cool town and great food. Okay, so Dave, tell me about how you got into the world that you're in and kind of what a day in the life of Dave is.
So I'm a transplant. I'm originally from Canada. I moved down here from Toronto in 2006. I grew up in farm equipment, so I've been in equipment my whole life. So we had a farm equipment dealership northeast of Toronto. And farming to me was a smaller market, different market. And I got into the industrial with a dealership in Toronto. It just opened up my eyes big time. After 5 or 6 years there, a dealer, CLM Equipment, the company I'm currently with, we met a dealer training. And again, same thing as the demo area, just got together with a bunch of people and got talking. And the offer was, hey, if you ever want to move south, let me know. And sure enough, on a handshake, I did. And 20 years later, I'm still here. But I've always been in the equipment side. To me, I went and focused more on the specialty and the attachments. Excavators are very common. There's good ones, there's bad ones, but they're all along the same lines. They are going to dig a hole. They're all going to do what you need them to do. It's just different qualities and different options and preferences. Now, when you get into attachments, the attachment, now I can narrow that down and be more specialized. So there may be 20 people selling a 20-ton excavator in town, but there's only 2 of us selling shears and demolition equipment. So I sort of focused more on that with the company, and we put machines in our rental fleet and everything else. So, but there is some knowledge that needs to be passed along to customers. A lot of customers will call and say, "Hey, I need this machine," and I'll ask them the question, "Well, why do you need that machine?"
Right.
And it's just they're dumbfounded. They don't know. That's what they got told. That's what they saw on the internet, or that's what somebody told them. So it always catches them off guard. And I'll ask them, "Okay, well, what are you doing?" "Well, I just need this machine." "I understand you need that machine, but what are you doing? What are you cutting? How
Mm,
thick? How high?" All these questions. When they come back, you don't need that machine. You're spending way too much money on a machine that's way too big. Something smaller, more cost effective can do what you need to do. Um, and more customers are becoming aware of attachments and different stuff. The internet has really changed our industry, especially the last 10 years. There used to be what happens in Europe in the recycling and demolition world would come over here maybe 5 to 10 years later. Now it's same here. The internet's really
wow.
changed that stuff because a customer here can get online and talk to somebody in Switzerland, or to talk to somebody in Germany or somebody in Japan the same day. So
Mm,
technology and the sharing of information back and forth is really happening so quick nowadays. So you've got to be on top of what's out there.
mm. Now, would you say that it's Europe or Asia, or who is kind of the cutting edge? I know there's a lot that comes out of Europe and Asia, but from your background, who is really cutting edge? What is really solid stuff that's getting produced, and where is it coming from?
When you get into it, it's a different mentality in different places. I worked for an Asian excavator manufacturer, and the way that they do jobs over there are different. The North American
Hmm.
market is one of the only markets in the world where if you finish quicker, you get a bonus.
Right.
Other markets, they look at it, and it's all about cost effective and fuel savings and everything. Fuel years up until the last maybe 5 to 7 years, fuel was not the biggest driver in the cost of a job here. It was the equipment and the time and everything else. Well, now what's happening, and overseas, you're with diesel at $7 to $8 a gallon. Fuel is a very important thing. So everywhere over there, the customers, what's the most fuel economical machine? Here, it's the
Right.
most power.
Mm,
The North American market is they want powerful machines, and fuel wasn't really that big of an issue. It's becoming more of an issue. Um,
sure.
but the way that they operate machines here is different. Overseas, it's a pick and set in place. Here, it's a grab it, throw it around, bash it around, and get it done as fast as you can. Um,
Mm.
the Japanese are horrified to see some of the demo sites we take customers to, or take them to see customers, and seeing how they're destroying machines. And I had a couple of Japanese engineers with me one time, and they said, "We must go tell that customer to stop working that way." And I said, "You just leave him the hell alone. He's doing his job. This is what we expect your machine to do." Um,
Hmm.
one of the big things overseas, I can show you a 10,000 hour machine in Japan or Europe, and I can show you a 2,500 hour machine in the US, and they both look the same.
Wow. Huh.
I think the operators and some American operators, there's great American operators, don't get me wrong, but I think
Mm.
the operator is a more valued position in other parts of the world. Um, they know they get a new machine every couple of years, and they look after that machine. They're going to have it. A lot of times here on a job site, guy's a flag guy one day, and he's driving a $400,000 to $500,000 pit truck the next day. That doesn't happen in other countries. So I think the operators there are a better quality operator. It's a operator's profession in other places, where here it's a job.
Right.
My father was an
Interesting.
operator. I want my son to be an operator, and I want his son to be an operator. Where there's a bit of a stigma here with the construction, and guys like Mike. Uh, Name title might out of my head. Mike, the Dirty Jobs guy. Mike Rowe.
Oh, micro.
Mike
Yeah.
Rowe is creating such a good platform for people going, hey, yeah, it's a dirty job, and it's a hard job to do. It's not sitting in an office, and it's not doing that, but it pays damn well.
Mm.
I think if we get a better quality operator, the machines overseas may not be built as heavy as here, but they can get a lot more production done because they're doing it in a better manner. Things that are
Okay.
coming over here, things like quick couplers, hydraulic quick couplers with like oil quick and steel wrist and stuff, where instead of taking a bucket to bash up concrete, they're actually going to drop that bucket off, put a breaker on, break up the concrete, drop the breaker off, go back to a bucket. The hydraulic
Mm,
quick couplers that will automatically hook up your hydraulics allow you to change and use that machine more precisely. So therefore, you're not beating up your machine. Machine's going to last longer. If the machine lasts longer, you've got less downtime. You can get more hours out of that machine.
got
There's
it.
overseas, they're running you see a lot of machines over, 10, 15, 20,000 hours, where here
Wow.
you guys are running machines 8 to 10,000 hours. They're toast because they just beat the crap out of them. But
Mm,
if you let the machine do the job and have the proper tool to do the job, that's the big thing. Get the right tool to do the job. The eye on the back of a bucket is not for busting concrete, it's for lifting. Use a breaker to bust concrete and your machines are going to last long.
yeah, and it's kind of ironic because for your world, it's probably a good thing the way the American way is, because it means, if it's 15 hours over in Asia,
Yep.
what did I say? 15, 15, 15,000
Yep.
versus 8,000.
Yep.
You're selling double within that time frame, so that's kind of beneficial, ironically. And it's kind of like a weird way to put it. It's the American way. It's like football, like just smash, get the job done,
Faster,
put
harder,
some
in
points on
every
the
one.
board. It's
Well,
so funny how that is.
I've been told in Japan, for example, if you bid a job for 6 weeks and you finish at 4 weeks, that's kind of disrespectful because you lied to me.
Mm,
If you put too
interesting.
fast, you misquoted it and you're taking advantage of me. If you take too long, then you're not a good contractor.
Interesting. So you got a Goldilocks zone.
I went to a job site there and it was demoing a strip mall. Now they've got issues over there with, it's an older infrastructure. So we're coming in with 100,000 pound machines. They can only come in with 50,000 pound machines because it's all cobblestone roads and it's tight area. But
Mm,
they've got 15 to 20 ton excavators tearing down the shopping mall. One will pass to the other, and then the other will pass to him, and it's like a conga line. And I'm going, this is so inefficient. They said, how would you do it? And I said, I'd come in with some 100,000 to 200,000 pound machines. And they go, yes, but a 100,000 pound machine burns more fuel than a 20 ton. I said, yeah, but I'm doing it with 2 and you're doing it with 20.
yeah.
They don't have the infrastructure to be able to get those big machines there. We would have a couple of big
Mm,
machines and a pit truck. And then that we'd come in with 4 or 5 machines where they've got 20 to 30 machines. It's just a different mentality on how they do it. It's slower, more precise. Here, beat the crap out of it, get it on the ground, and move on to the next one. The more you
yeah.
can do, the more money you make.
Interesting.
Just a different mindset. But the attachments, the machines in overseas, they're set up to run on economy mode is where they run because of fuel, and they don't need to go as fast. Where us guys get in, they put it on heavy mode, they pin the throttle, full throttle, and go to town.
Yeah. Interesting. Now I know diesel prices are much more expensive in Europe. Is that the
Yeah.
same for Asia as well? I'm not
Well,
aware of that. I don't know how that
yeah,
operates. Okay.
it is, and it's a different mentality. A lot of these big cities, and like Europe and Asia, for example, they just don't have the room. They don't have the room to do what we have. Like there, they've got to systematically take down a building a bit at a time because they've got so many other buildings, and some of them are 3, 4, 500,000 years old. Where here, we
Mm,
got a lot of room, and if you need to drop something, you buy the neighbor's property, you tear it down, and you do it. We have a lot of big cities here having that problem, but overseas it's a way more compact area. In Europe is almost worse because you've got so many people on top of each other. You just don't have the room to be able to move and get equipment around. So you've got to do things differently.
mm.
But
And I
fuel,
take it you're oh, sorry. Go for it.
no, fuel is a big cost. It's when we've seen fuel prices almost double in the last couple of years, yeah, it's starting to become a major issue here.
Mm, that's fascinating. Now, I take it you've traveled the world many times over. Kind of sounds like not just Asia, but Europe as well. Stateside, I'm sure you've,
A little bit
Canada, etc.
and that's dealing with from the manufacturing side. It helped me because I had my equivalent in Europe and my equivalent in Australia, for example, and we talked back
Mm,
and forth about the market. When a manufacturer makes a machine, it's not necessarily the same machine and same spec for all around the world. Every area has different regulations. Europe has lifting boom holding valves on all our machine for safety. We don't have those here. Other countries are still running, like Australia is still running tier 2, 3, and 4. So they can run machines with older emissions. Some countries, excavators overseas, they're not made for lifting the way we do. They're a digging machine. So US has longer undercarriages, bigger, heavier booms. So when you see these gray market machines coming in, some of them are going, oh, I can buy a 320 cat. It's the same thing. Not really. The spec's different. Horsepower might be different. Engine is different. Sometimes the tracks and the weights are different. So guys get these machines, go, oh, they're really tippy. Well, you shorten an undercarriage by a foot, yeah, it's going to be tippy. And that's where, guys buying it, everybody's looking for a cheaper option. Machines are not cheap, and everybody's always looking for a cheaper option. Just be careful what you get and make sure you understand what you're buying.
Right. Yeah. We've had some nightmare stories about auction purchases. Way early on in the podcast, we had a particular person. He's up in New Jersey, I believe, Northeast. And he went to an auction in Florida, and he was like, it looked so good. It was clean and fresh and everything. And he said that was the biggest piece of junk we ever bought. And I'll never, ever, ever do that again. Not to say that all auctions are like that, but he goes, all right, it made sense why that wasn't retailing.
Lipstick on a pig. Yeah, lipstick on a pig.
Oh, yeah.
But we get that all the time. I've been at auctions with something as simple as an attachment for a skid steer, a bucket for a skid steer. And guys are bidding against each other, and the price is higher. And I'll get to the guy who didn't win, and I'll walk over and go, hey, I got the same damn thing on my yard for about $500 less, and it's brand new. Come buy it.
Oh, my gosh.
People do that all the time. I've had people that, we sell used equipment as well. We've got about 150 machines in our rental fleet. And it's at one time it was up around 300-400. Customer would not give us $40,000 for an older case dozer. And we sent him pictures of it. He doesn't want it. It's too. We put it to auction. He bought it, paid $60,000 for the same dozer he would get 40. And he paid 60 at auction for it. So people get wound up into that. And I'm not a big fan of auction. Auctions are good. If I have a machine that we've got problems with, we stand behind all of our equipment. We have to. We've got a good reputation for being, stand behind what we do. Your reputation, especially again with the internet, your reputation is all over it. But it's cool for me to be from Houston and being up in New York or something like that and see a machine with my sticker on it, knowing, hey, that customer trusted me. He gave me money over the phone and gave me a couple $100,000, trusted me enough. And that machine, we get multiple customers after we sell stuff. If it's something I don't trust and I don't like, stickers come off it and goes to auction. It's buyer beware at auction.
Right.
But there is still some good things at auction. Some people, that's how they liquidate assets. There's some deals and some stuff's not deals. Just got to be careful. You got to know your equipment.
Right. That makes sense. And I guess the savvy buyer would take their mechanics or maintenance crew or something like that. That would typically be the best thing. Okay.
More of the auctions now are also doing a guarantee. I know some of the auction companies, they'll go through and they'll do a full inspection. The last thing you want is a late addition to the auction. If something's been at the auction, say if it's going to Ritchie Brothers and it's been there for a month and they'll do guarantees. They'll go through inspections. They'll do oil samples. They'll give you their inspection. But again, it's not, if they miss something, it's, oh, well, you want to have your guys there. But I would just never buy anything at auction. Go, hey, it's a late addition. Well, it's a late addition because they didn't want it inspected.
That's wild. Okay. That's really, really good insight because auctions definitely do come up. And help me understand that. Is that just a buying frenzy in the instance where you mentioned, $40,000 you guys are selling it and people are paying 60? They just lose their mind there, or they're not even aware that you guys have it in inventory, or how does that?
I think the auction, it is that buyer frenzy and that they get wound up into it sometimes. We go to a lot of auctions and we take the listing and we put our number, no emotion into it. It's a business transaction. Once you put emotion into it, it really affects a lot of stuff. So we put a number on it. We put a number on every machine that we're interested in. And if it gets to that number, if it goes below that number, great, we buy it. If it's over that number, we walk away. It's got to financially make sense. And you can't make that, it's always that competition. Everybody wants that competition and they want to win. But, there's always a cost. And we've got to look at numbers. If I can buy something brand new cheaper than what it's going for auction, I'm going to go buy brand new. And a lot of people think that an auction's a good deal, but as you said, that guy bought something and it ends up costing you more in the long run.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I remember in that story, he said they were able to use it. They had it for a while, wasn't forever, but they had it for a while, and it just was insane with the maintenance. And he was like, "Man, that was a mistake. That was me being an amateur of sorts." And now he's been in the business for forever, and they're very, very successful. So let's say I want to know two instances. What is it like for someone who hasn't worked with you guys? How does that look? What are they normally going for? How do you guide them in the right direction? And then after that, we'll go to what a current client looks like and how you guys kind of work together. So let's do someone out of the blue. They maybe meet you guys at the association, shake your hand, go, Dave seems like a legitimate, honest guy, works for a great company. We want to start working with them. What does that normally look like from their outreach?
It's a combination. We try to stay our local businesses within 150 to maybe max 200 miles from our store. That's where we can physically reach with our service. Once it gets out of that range, then it's not cost effective for us to service stuff. A local customer, it's coming to our yard, seeing our yard. They want to know how many mechanics you have, how quick can you get to us? And of course, everybody, we're renting machines. A 350 shear package is pushing $30,000 a month.
Wow.
They need to know that they're not down. We usually 90% of the time we take brand new machines and put them in our rental fleet, and we rent newer inventory. There's some other dealers around that buy machines at auction, and they're starting their rental fleet at 5,000 hours. Well, most of our stuff is gone 2,500 to 3,000 hours, and we flip it out with new.
Okay.
So we try to keep stuff under warranty. The newer the machine, the less likely you're going to have breakdown. Now it's still going to break down, and then you've got damages and you got everything else to it. But if you can lessen that chance of breakdown by having newer, reliable machines, it really saves you a lot of travel. Now, so those customers, we bring them to our yard. They want to see, okay, if I'm down, how quick can you get me? Okay, these are the mechanics in the shop. We introduce them to people there. Here's our service manager. Here's our parts guy. Here's the owner. You want to know stuff. Here's customers we're dealing with. We have that local reputation. Now, with a customer being at a state or something, and we advertise a shear package or a material handler or something, they don't know me from Adam. I'm just some guy trying to sell equipment, just like everybody else at the show. They'll do the research. They'll look at what do you have, and again, they look at that fleet and go, is he trying to pawn me a bunch of 8,000-9,000 hour machines, or they're all 2,000 to 3,000? And not everybody's in that price range, and I get it. Sometimes if we've got somebody that we're asking 300 and somebody's $150,000 buyer, I'll lead them to somebody that has it. I try not to get involved in those deals. I just say, hey, listen, it's a tight deal. I understand that. When you're up at that next market, like your friend, starting small, you got to go somewhere. I'll set them up with the guys that are set up for that. I find getting involved in those deals and being another person just adds dollars to it. But I would rather build a relationship now and make no money, so that down the road, when you're at the little bit different caliber and you've got that money behind you and you've got the business figured out and you're making money, come on back. And a lot of times those customers, I talk to a lot of people at shows and give them a lot of information and help them on stuff. And I keep on everybody asks me, why are you helping them? You're not getting paid. And I go, because it's going to come down the road. And sometimes it doesn't, but it's amazing to be at a show 3 years later and a guy says, man, you told me I wanted to spend 400,000. You said, no, do this, spend a little bit less. I did. I'm at that point. Well, now I want that $600,000 machine, and I made it, and I'm not equipment payment poor. You helped me out. Now I want to deal with you. And that's where we get a lot of our repeat business from that. If customers, sometimes we're not the cheapest, and customers will search around for the cheapest, and you get what you pay for.
Right.
You've got to have somebody that will stand behind you and look after it. And we do. Sometimes financially it doesn't make sense for us to do it, but we do what's right.
Yeah, you guys seem very consultative. It's something. You've been in the business for so long, and that's the beauty, is you're not someone who says, yeah, I've been in it for 2 months or 2 years or whatever. And it's like, all right, well, you're just trying to make a paycheck. For you, you have repeats, referrals, and people can trust you because you're trustworthy and you're willing to take care of them.
It's a marathon. It's not a race. And I've got customers from back in Toronto. I've still got a couple customers from 20 years ago in Toronto. Before they buy any equipment, they still call me and say, what do you think? Because I've got no skin in the game, and I'm just out there to help them. And it's amazing. I moved from Toronto, where I was northeast of Toronto, and there was a small company that did some recycling, but it was used appliance company. So I'm down in Houston, and I get a call from a guy, and I noticed the phone number was an Ontario phone number. And the guy says, I'm at an auction in Florida, and I'm looking at a long reach excavator. And I go, look, to knowing the number and the area code and stuff, I go, you're from this area? And he goes, how did you know? I said, well, based on your phone number. And I go, is this Barry? And it's dead calm on the phone on the other side. He goes, who the hell is this? And I said, well, listen, I know your store. You're looking for a long reach down there. I dealt with you when I was there. The store manager looked after you, and I dealt stuff, and you sell used appliances. My parents bought stuff. And he goes, have you got this machine? I go, yep. He saw one on machinery trader we had. He goes, send it up. And I said, don't you want to see it? And he goes, no. He said, I know your parents. I know the previous manager, and I know if you screw me, those people will be on your ass.
Right.
So I got a guy at an auction in Florida from Toronto buying a machine from somebody in Houston, and it was a 2-minute transaction.
Crazy.
You don't know where people you talk to. It's a small world, and it's a big world, but it's a small industry, and your reputation is all you have in this industry.
Yeah, and I notice a lot of whether it's the actual companies that we have on as guests, or it's vendors or anything, we're not typically talking to amateurs or new people, so to speak. It seems like, really the cream rises to the top. The ones who have good tried and true businesses, we're talking to people who've done it for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, etc. It's fascinating. So yeah, you must have a massive Rolodex of people that you deal with.
I'm very reactional. I'm not, you put me into a territory and say, grind this territory, I get bored and I'm done. But you come in and say, hey, I got a problem, solve this problem. I'm in, out and gone. I know my strengths, and that's why I sort of gravitated over to that specialty side. It makes sense to me. I used to have all kinds of toys in my office, and people go, why you have toys? And I go, because I'm sitting there figuring, the guy says I got a tank that's 40 feet high, and I've got my little toy excavator sitting here, and I'm going, okay, you're going to have this problem. You're going to have with a second member shear mounted straight to the boom, you don't have as much dexterity and movement. You need a third member to reach around that pipe rack and stuff. And guys go, how do you know this stuff? And it just makes sense. But the whole thing with the salesman in this industry, you got to be a chameleon, and you got to be able to go, 1 minute you're talking to, like we have track loaders and mini excavators. So 1 minute I'm talking to an owner operator. The next minute I'm talking to a guy just buying something for his ranch. Now I'm talking to somebody that's a pit operator, and they need to talk yards per hour and tons per hour that they can move. Then I'm talking to a demolition guy who wants to cut buildings down, wants to know what shear will do it. Then have you got magnets and material to be able to cut it and process it? How big does it need to be at a scrap yard? It's just a massive amount of information, and it's pulling it together in a cohesive plan. It's like Cliff Clavin from Cheers. I got so much useless information in here, but every once in a while it comes out.
Yeah.
But that's what it's hard is you get a lot of salesmen that just they're here. Guy wants to buy a machine. Here's a price, and I try not to
order
price
takers
right out of the gate. We tried we had a salesman came through here a couple weeks ago, and customer says, I need a price on the machine. So he goes, okay, here. And I said, what'd you price him? He said, I priced him a machine. I said, what machine? I don't know. I just picked the first one. I said, did you ask him what he's doing with it? And so I called the customer. He didn't need a wheel loader. He needed an excavator. But he just said, the guy wanted a price on a machine. So I gave him a price on a machine. You got to ask the questions.
Right.
I can, when customer asks me what's the price of the machine of 30-ton excavator, and I said, I'll start asking questions. Well, what are you doing? Well, it doesn't matter. Give me a price. $100,000 to $1 million. That's your price. Well,
yeah,
can you narrow it down? Can you narrow it down? What are you doing? What are you lifting? What do you need? Do you need hydraulics? Do you need guarding? Do you need attachments? Well, then all of a sudden now we can narrow it down. And now we're going specifically with, this is the machine you need for this job. And here's a couple options. Here's a 1,000-hour machine. Here's a 2,000-hour. Here's a 3,000-hour machine. But I think everybody's afraid to ask questions, and COVID hurt that because it's gone away from the belly to belly sales thing.
Right.
Guy wants a price. I get customers now. They'll send me a text saying, hey, price me this machine. And I'll send back a text on a price. There's no interaction. There's no sitting there looking them in the eye when you hand them the price and look for the shock or look for the, damn, that's a good price. You don't have that gut feeling. So it's becoming very transactional and going away from the person to person. That's why I like the Demolition show and the ISRI show. You can sit down with these people and shoot the shit and find out a little bit about them.
Right.
You know, a lot of it is just relationship. And we've done more deals at the bar than we did on the floor, just by talking to people and finding out what they do, and they get to know you. And then a month later, they call you and say, "Hey, this is what we need." One of the best relationships, I had a guy at the Demolition show. He was running the live demo area, and he needed some help after the show cleaning up. So I said, "I'll come help." He goes, "Well, why are you doing that?" I go, "Gives me seat time. Go play in some machines." So we helped him do it. A year later, they called us and said, "Hey, we need this monster machine." And the company I was working for was bringing it. And it was a $2 million machine they were looking at. So just from taking 2 hours after the demo show one night, instead of going out drinking into the bar, I went to clean up the job site. And that turned into him talking to his boss. "Hey, Dave's a good shit. He does his stuff and he helped us out here. They need a machine." And they came to us, and it turned out to be a great relationship.
That is cool. Yeah, crazy. Going above and beyond. Everyone else would never thought of that. They're like, yeah.
And it's the little things. It's just, it's an ethic of not, I still to today, there's my paychecks. I have no idea how much they are. My bills are paid. My things are looked after, but I don't nickel and dime and look at it. If I'm going to have a conversation with you, I'm not thinking, "Hey, you're not buying anything." If, I'm going to go to somebody else that's going to be buying something. I don't think that way. I look at it. You and I have a conversation. It may go nowhere, buying a machine, but still give the people that time.
Right.
You just don't know, and you don't know who they know. We get a lot.
Exactly.
Of guys that are, some guy buys a little track skid steer to take to his ranch, but all of a sudden the fencing contractor's there, the clearing company. He goes, "Man, I got a guy who sells those," and that conversation goes. So a lot of we advertise. Machinery Trader gets us a lot of calls, but a lot of it's word of mouth and just people who know who we are and what we do. It's easier. It's easier when a person's coming to you asking questions, and there's Houston's one of the biggest volume of construction equipment in North America, but it's also probably one of the most competitive because it's the biggest. You got to do something to make you stand out. If you're just out there being the cheapest, you don't put salesmen on the road and you just advertise prices. We're Walmart. But this is still an industry that when shit breaks, people want to know who's going to stand behind it. They'll buy a cheap thing and then all of a sudden it breaks and they go, "We can't get it serviced." Well, yeah, because you didn't pay anything for it. It was cheap. You get what you pay for. We're not the cheapest, but we're also not the most expensive.
Yeah, you're kind of the value sweet spot. Price is not the most, it's not the cheapest, but also quality is high. Like it's a good equilibrium there.
Everything is going to break. Everything is going to need maintenance. It's how you deal with it when it happens there. And unfortunately, customers aren't going to know how we deal with that until they give us that chance. It's a leap of faith sometimes at the beginning. But what a lot of we'll do, we've got a key bunch of customers. If a customer says, "What's your service like?" Call these guys. A customer's looking to buy a machine. They all look great new, but let's go look at a 3,000 or 4,000 hour machine. Let's compare our brand of 3,000 hour machine to somebody else's 3,000 hour machine. And they go, "Well, I'm not buying that. That looks awful." That's how they hold up. We put stuff in the rental fleet and run it for 3,000 hours. People beat the crap out of it, but we also charge them. You dent my door, you're replacing the door. You wreck the cab, you're putting a cab on it. We fix our machines up. So when customers come, they know. When we do put machines to auction, the auctions like our machines there. If we've got we just got to liquidate stuff because we got too much inventory. They like our machines because it draws people in. A dealer rental fleet is maintained a lot of times to a certain condition. So from the auction standpoint, they'll advertise, "Hey, CLM's got 20 machines going to auction," and people will go and bid higher on those machines because they know they've been serviced.
That makes sense. What percentage of your clientele would you say are rental based versus purchase based?
It's more, I think last year, the last couple of years, there's been more equipment sold into the rental side than there is retail. We're doing a trend. We've changed around some manufacturers a little bit, and our Houston location is switching from a sales and rental to rental and sales. We're flipping what we're doing. We don't have a
Okay.
main line over here, and we're not pushing the main line. Again, it's so competitive. We're putting new machines. Our Louisiana stores, we're still selling new things over there, but we're switching
Mm,
more of a rental focus over here. Being
okay.
being a dealer for new equipment, you've got rules and you've got quotas and you got to get it. And you're always chasing that nut. You're always chasing that number. Um,
Mm,
and it's expensive to do. We have found that we cut our business back instead of chasing the new as much, going after the rental, selling the used. We can do it with less people. We're more profitable now as a smaller company than we were when we were a bigger company.
oh, isn't that ironic?
It's a lot less stress. I'm not running here 7 days a week and trying to keep all this stuff going.
Mm,
It's surprising you can actually make more money doing less sometimes, and we've got we're still got some hiccups in it. We still are trying to get those numbers, and we're going, man, we should be selling more. Yeah, but it's more of a rental market, and I think right now with the interest rates and the cost of equipment and the current political environment that nobody knows whether it's good or bad, it's a rental market. So we're going to
mm.
capitalize on that rental market and keep building our rental fleet. I think we've grown our rental fleet by 20 to 30% in the last 6 to 8 months, and we're going to keep growing that.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay. Very, very interesting. And I guess with finance, for purchases, not
Mhm.
necessarily for rentals, how does that look? I'm familiar with car finance, home finance, that kind of thing. Do most people finance? Is that a 50-50?
It's it, it the, if it's all finance to some point. No, very few people are
Mm,
walking with cash in hand and doing it. Whether they
right.
use our supplied financing or their bank or their line of credit. Years ago, my father, in a farm equipment dealership, my father said, "You don't buy anything unless you can afford to pay cash for it." You can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Times have
Machinery,
changed.
10 years, I think machinery's probably been up 50% higher price than what it was 10 years ago. So something that was
Jeez.
100,000 is easily right now 150 to $200,000. The
Wow.
rental market softens that edge. When we sell a shear package, if it's a $600,000 shear package, guys will rent it for a couple months. They'll take something out of our rental fleet that somebody else has paid rental down, brand new at 600, but something with 2,000 to 3,000 hours we can sell for 4. It takes that edge off, and they're
Mm,
still going to finance it anyway. Um, some companies do walk in; they've already got their own financing, whether it's and a lot of times they're dealing with the same finance companies we're currently dealing with, but they've got a line of
oh.
credit with them and they're going direct. It depends on
Mm,
the size of the company. The bigger companies, some of the big demolition companies we have an internal rental company within their company. They buy to the rental company and then
mm,
rent to themselves.
right.
You know,
Interesting.
and
Interesting. Interesting.
it's demolition guys are transient too. That's the other problem. A company from New York might have all their assets there, but they get a job in Houston. Well, they've got to look at it and go, does it make sense to truck all the machines they own down here and then when they're done truck them back, or just it's a short-term job, it's 6 months, rent them down here, and when you're done turn them back in and go back home? Everybody gets on a plane or drives their truck home and you're not moving iron back and forth.
Sure.
So demolition has always been transient. You know there's it surprised me that a customer from Houston can be working in Mississippi and the customer from Mississippi is working in Houston. I'm going, why don't you guys just swap jobs and everybody stay home at night? But
Refer each other the business, make it
yeah,
easier.
and sometimes it works that way. That's the one thing with the demo. I'll say with the demo guys, it happens that way. That sometimes they'll
Mm,
compete against jobs, and some of the big guys go, "Listen, you take that. Well, I got that one. You take that one. I'm going to take yours, and both going to make more money in the end." They work together, and
mm,
that's one of the things we try to do with them. Is the same thing. We get it. Sometimes we got to break some rules and we got to do some stuff to help them out. Something happens that shouldn't have happened and should be a charge, but we don't charge it. You know, it's a relationship, and the better the relationship, the more likely they're going to deal with you next time because it'll come around. And again, same thing. These guys, everybody talks.
sure.
There's some guys in the industry that you go to a show and everybody hates the guy, but he's been in the industry for 20 years, and everyone's going, "How the hell is he still here?" And nobody can figure it out. And then next year he's with a different company. But he's got those
Interesting.
connections. They might not like the product he's selling, but they like the guy.
Yeah, right. And they've known him for so long. Okay. So on that, the financing, you would guess maybe, I don't know, 10%, 5% are paying straight up, no financing. Here's a wire. Is that
Yeah,
probably?
yeah. There's advantages to both.
Mm,
Renting's 100% write off. And again, I'm not an
mhm.
accountant or tax person by any means. If somebody rents something, it's 100% write off. So because
Mhm.
it's a rental, if you buy it, you're capturing that asset. And for some people that shows up as a liability on their balance sheet. Now, if they're trying to bond a job, if they've got $10 million worth of equipment, it shows up as $8 million in loans, which shows up bad on your bonding versus they rent $10 million of equipment. They have no debt. So everybody's going to do
Mm,
things for different reasons. Now, some people lease depending on how they're set up, and other people finance. And what we do with anybody calls to buy a machine, I said, do you need financing or do you have it set up? And they said, well, we have it set up. Okay, then we just give you a price on the machine. To us, that's a cash transaction. They may be financing direct or with their bank or line of credit. But if
ah,
somebody else comes in and says, "Hey," and for example, Wells Fargo, if we might put them through to Wells Fargo, and rates might be 7 or 8% right now, but because they've got a line of credit at 5%, they
mm,
get a better rate. So from our standpoint, it's a cash transaction. They're still financing it somewhere.
right, right,
It's not
right.
like they've got
Externally,
$500,000 sitting in the bank to go, man, what am I going to spend this on? Some do.
right.
Um, and that's where the dealership sometimes it's being creative. The whole at the end of the year, you get this rush of people going, God, I made money. I got to spend it.
Mm,
You still got only a certain amount you can write off each year. And
right.
I tell anybody buying anything, okay, let's identify what you need. Now, I want your accountant or your paper, your um, accountant or your CFO or whoever else. I want them to tell you how to buy it. You don't decide how to buy it.
Mm,
That's their job. I'm here to spec out the equipment, help you get the job done. Talk to the specialist in money, and he'll tell you how to buy it. Do you want to lease it? Do you want to finance it? Do you want to pay a high interest rate? Do you want to pay a low interest rate? There's advantages to each, and that's why you tell them talk to the expert.
right. And I guess down payment, is there a normal 20%, 10%? It varies. What is a normal down payment for
All
purchase?
depends on the person's credit. It's like
Got it.
it's identical to buying vehicles. It's no different than buying.
Mm,
Um,
right.
if credit's good, sometimes now what happened during COVID and availability of machines, there's always the whole economic side of supply, demand, and price. There was no
Mhm.
supply, there was high demand, so the price was high. We're finding a bunch of people bought stuff 2 years ago when availability sucked and prices were high, and dealers were making good money and availability was low, so the prices went up. 2 years later, they're trying to sell that machine. Well, they're still upside down on it 2 years later. Now we're coming into a position where the economy seems to be slowing down a little bit. Manufacturers are caught up. There's some deals out there with manufacturers on new equipment. It's no different than trucks. I bought a truck last year, and for me to trade that truck, I'm taking a big hit to trade that truck right now after a year, more than
Wow.
before because I paid a high price for it. But now new ones are
Sure.
coming down in price, and now my trade is not worth what it was. And the
Mm,
equipment industry follows the same thing. There's better availability. There's low rate financing on new, but used equipment standard rate. So, when we're pricing a customer a new machine, I can sell you a brand new one at 2% interest rate, or I can sell you this used one that's $50,000 less, but you're going to pay 7 or 8% interest. Well,
interesting.
payment, you're the same damn payment on a new one as you are a used one.
Right. Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Huh.
So
Okay.
you've got to look at the
Um,
numbers, and every deal is different. And if you put money down, that the interest rates change, and that's why really you need someone with the accounting side to look at it and say, hey, you've identified what you want. Now let the person who runs your money decide how you buy it. That's going to best suit.
mm, right. And you're probably given multiple options of here's rental, here's new, here's used. Let's look at the full baked option and how long do you keep stuff? How long is the lifetime? How long is the warranty? That kind of thing. That's a really cool way to do it. So you're almost looking at a few different pictures in their full vision rather than just a quick snapshot.
If it's
And I would
something
assume most salespeople do that. Here's a
it,
snapshot. That's it.
you hope they do, but again, a lot of salesmen right now, again, the belly to belly thing's gone away, where you have a conversation exactly like we're having right now, and it's changed to emails and everything else. There's no emotion, there's no conversation. It's just like, I need a 329 cat. Okay, here's a 329 cat. There's no conversation. What are you doing with it? Well, I'm just, I need to move it around. Well, you don't need a 329, you need a 320. So, it's transactional. It's still a transaction, but there's less thought going into it, and all the way down into that buying process. Interest rates right now, again, I've got people that are being quoted 18, 19, 20% interest rates.
Wow.
And depending on the situation, I've got a guy that paid 18% interest based on his financial situation. He knows he went through a divorce. He had to file bankruptcy. We were lucky to get him financed. And he goes,
Right.
I told him, I said, listen, I know it sucks, but this is the choice of you either having the machine or not having the machine. If you have the machine and you make your payments even at 20% interest, 2 years down the road, refinance it.
Sure.
But it's building that credit. And that's the biggest thing I think in this industry that I think our school systems really suck on, is you need to teach people about their credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
People don't understand how much credit is important until they go to buy something. And the better the credit, the better the interest rate, the less down payment. This
and
guy,
it's typically on personal credit. They're not looking at a business credit or anything like that.
a lot of companies won't finance new businesses because there's no history. So it's going to be tied back to personal. And a lot of finance companies are asking for personal guarantees somewhere. Because if the business isn't strong enough, they can just close the business down and walk away, and nobody's financially tied to it. Nobody's out any money.
Right. Now, your big shots, are they still having to do PGs as well?
If you're big enough that the business stands on its own and supports itself, yeah, you're never going to get a CEO of a $20 million company to sign a personal guarantee. But usually at that point, the business is strong enough to be able to support it. The business has history. But, if it's a brand new startup, with no history, there's probably going to be personal guarantees or some type of cross collateral or something. And a lot of times at that point, we will set them up with the finance company, and then we back away. Let the money people talk back and forth. I don't personally want to know your personal financial situation. I don't need to know the details of who you owe money to and everything else. It's none of my business. Talk to the finance guys. Just come back to me and tell me who's sending me the money.
Yeah.
It simplifies. It's the game of telephone. Every time you get involved, and it's one of the things we've sort of learned. We've got some salesmen, even within our company now, they want to hold that whole deal. They don't want to let go. They want to be that man in the middle. I find I got too many things going on to be babysitting someone through on their financials. And did you get the financials? Well, what happened here? Why did you file bankruptcy? Why did you not pay these people? I'll just put it to the finance companies and say, you guys deal with them.
Sure. No, that makes sense. That's good. It's a way to delegate. Last few questions is there a maturation? Of course, there's the rental example where it's a company in New York, they got a job in Houston. It just may be way more efficient to rent for the 6 months. Do you notice that there's any sort of, generalized maturation of annual revenue or anything like that companies maybe lean into more of the leasing and purchasing rather than renting?
If it's a new company, sometimes they'll rent because again, they're feeling this out. They don't have the credit to buy, like a $600,000 machine is going to rent for $30,000 a month. Well, you're not in your first job. Usually you're not walking into those jobs. You're starting with that smaller business. I'm demoing a garage, and then a garage turns into a home, and then a home turns into a gas station that turns into a building. And there's that maturation along the way, but the equipment's also going to mature as well. There is some companies that start out renting. They don't know somebody has an opportunity to go do something, and they do it, and they decide, yeah, it makes sense or no. They know they've got 3 months worth of work. They don't know what they have after that. If they know, hey, I've got a year's worth of work, yeah, you should try to capture that asset and buy it. If you know you've got 3 months worth of work and you really don't know after, maybe a rental purchase, rent it with the option that the dealers will put a little bit of that money towards you buying it. So you're not losing all that money. It just depends on the job. Like, I tell guys, if it's going to be a 6-month job or less, rent it. If it's going to be longer than that, consider purchasing that asset. And it's going to be different if it's a material handler for a job that you're tearing down a building and you need a material handler with a magnet, but you're really a concrete guy. You do concrete buildings. You just got one job with steel. You're probably not going to buy the material handler. You're just going to rent that. Whereas a skid steer, it's going to be on that job, and you'll use that skid steer for every other job. Maybe that's the asset you should capture and own. But
Right.
more and more companies are depending. Again, some of the way the job, we do a lot of stuff in refineries, and in refineries, how you bid jobs, sometimes renting equipment is actually more beneficial. We've got customers. I've got a customer right now that's had a machine on rent at $30,000 a month, and he's had it on rent for a year and a half.
Wow.
He's basically paid for the machine, but they have no
Yeah.
interest in buying that machine. They just want to keep renting it because they rent it. The person they're working for, it's a time T&M job. You give me a rental bill, we'll pay the rental bill. Now, if you own it, now they've got costs, and when the machine goes down, they call us. Hey, your rental machine's down. We go fix it. They have no responsibility on the maintenance of that machine. Well, they've got responsibility in maintenance, but they've got no cost of maintenance on that machine. It's all bared by the renter or the rental company. So for that application, it makes sense. They've got another job that they're doing. We're in the middle of selling them a machine for a different job. So some demo companies will compartmentalize and say, hey, I've got 3 jobs going on. This one we want to use our assets. This one we want to lease, and this one we just want to rent and walk away. It just depends on the job and where it is. And, a lot of it's going to come down to the maintenance on the machines.
Yeah, it's very case by case. That's cool. And the beauty is you can mature with their maturation. Like you guys have a box to fit for every phase of the business and every job, which is really great.
So if somebody wants to rent, we've got that. They think, hey, you know what? I want to buy it, but I can't afford new. We take that machine out of the rental fleet. We can sell them that machine out of the rental fleet. Now the customer grows up and says, hey, I'm going to be doing this full time. I've got lots of work and I'm confident I'm going to have that. Well, now they go and purchase that new asset. So we've got all 3 stages all the way along.
That's cool. Well, Dave, this has been great. Can you tell us maybe phone number, email, website, anything like that? How can people get in touch with you, and who is ideal to reach out to Dave?
Yeah, I'm at CLM Equipment. We're in Lafayette, Louisiana, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Houston, Texas. Our website's clmequipment.com. My cell phone number is 281-709-5919. My email is daved@clmequipment.com. Basically, we sell compact track loaders, ASV loaders. We just took on Yanmar mini excavators for the Houston Harris County market. We're Hitachi excavator dealers, Hitachi excavator and loader in Louisiana. We've been doing Genesis shears and Fortress shears for several years. We do connect hammers, breakers, grapples, magnet packages. We're looking at building some custom material handlers and looking at getting more into the high reach demolition market. But high reach in this area is a little bit different than it is up in the East Coast. There's just more business up there. It's coming here, but hasn't taken on as quick. So material high reaches are coming, but not yet.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Well, that's sweet. Love it. Love it. Dave, again, super thank you for coming on. Really, really excited. You're numero uno in terms of what you do on the podcast, which is really great. You're first to market with us. So this will be really, really great for our audience. Again, thank you guys so much for listening. Dave, thank you much for coming on. It was really awesome, really exciting. And we got to learn about you as well as the business. So thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Dave.
That's a wrap for this episode of Demolition Success Secrets. Stay tuned and subscribe for more explosive insights from our upcoming episodes. Until then, continue to blow up your demolition business and make the competition rubble in your path.